Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Mother You Know, The Woman You Don't. We are steadily doing these episodes and stepping into, I think, what is quickly becoming my favorite part, which is bringing in friends and family. And this week, I'm excited to have another extension of my friends and family, a little bit of both, because we are joined by a friend of mine, Tammy, who we have been friends. We were friends by marriage, I guess. So, and
Yeah.
I was thinking about it today that it was friends by marriage. And I don't think we would have had any other choice but to be friends because our husbands were friends from kindergarten or first grade. They have been friends their
First
whole
grade
life.
math. Yeah.
They are officially each other's person. I think they are probably, I know for Dwayne, it's really one of his closest relationships that it's, somebody he needs something, we usually just call Greg and Tammy. Or if
Yeah.
we, or he got a crisis and I hope vice versa, but they're our people. So Tammy and I have quickly become really good friends and have been friends for like I said, 25 years. And we are joined by her daughter, Tiffany, who is, when you talk about mothers and daughters, Tammy has 4 daughters. And Tiffany, because we couldn't have everybody on, we opted to go with our oldest daughter, Tiffany. So Tiffany's with us today, and we're going to just kind of dive into their story and talk about their journey as in motherhood. And I've said, listen, if your other girls are jealous, we'll have them on one at a time. You may have to go through this 4 times, Tammy. We'll see.
Oh gosh.
Well, listen, still haven't had my girls on, and I'm saying, well, I'm saving those for sweeps week because that's just going to be a thing when we
Yeah.
dive into my daughters. So, and the other thing is, I think Tammy, your youngest two, and my 2 girls were the exact same age. So I think that's really
Right.
what kind of bonded our families too. Is not only the
Agreed.
relationship between Greg and Dwayne, but the relationship between our 4 of our girls. Were just instant like BFFs. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so with that, Tammy, I guess you want to just kind of start out telling us what we do is just kind of dive into your story. So just we're started just telling us kind of where you were born. Tell us a little about your mom and dad and your siblings, and just kind of just give us a brief uh, over little start of your life.
Do we have all night?
We do. We have all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then go to fall asleep.
Um, well, my parents actually they divorced when I was an infant, actually. And then they remarried their respective spouses just like within weeks of my first birthday.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
So,
really
Oh.
young.
So
yeah,
you
I
always
was,
had step parents and
I
stuff. That was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I was still, so mom said she got an instant family so mom is my stepmom, but she's my mom. She's the one that raised me. Her name is Joanne Golden. And, anyway, she got an instant family with me and my older brother, who's 4 years older than me. And, I was still on bottle diapers, all of the stuff. So she had a baby and me. And the one thing that she told me is, because of my personality, I demanded her attention. and,
Oh.
and I think that's what bonded us so well is, I was always
Yeah.
demanding, always wanting her to hold me, love me,
Yeah.
care for me, all of that. So that bonded us instantly. So
Yeah.
shocking, I know.
Yeah.
Where were you
But,
born, Tammy?
yeah, so I was born in actually Memorial Hermann Hospital, right across from the zoo, downtown Houston, Texas. And like I said, my parents were divorced when I was an infant, but I pretty much my first 5 years of my life I lived in the Humble area, and in East Texas actually, which is
Nice.
where your husband lived.
Yes, it's where my husband's from.
Yes, yes. I think Dwayne and I actually went to the same daycare or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or elementary school.
Yeah.
Um, and then actually we moved to Florida. So I lived in Florida for 5 years until I was in 5th grade. And then we moved back to my parents, I guess, where I was raised from 6th grade and up. And funny tidbit is about Greg.
Uh-huh.
And when I came back, we lived with my grandparents in Humble for the last like 2 or 3 months of school.
Yeah.
And I went to the 9th grade campus of Humble High School, but it was actually the middle school at that time. And the reason why, even though I was in 5th grade, is because the elementary school had burned. So the 5th graders all went to that school. And Greg was going there at the same time. And I remember seeing him at one point. My aunt had picked me up from school and she said, "Oh, look, there goes, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "What?" And I just saw this blonde boy, and he looked pretty cute. So but I was in 5th grade. So,
What did you
that
know?
was my first time ever seeing Greg.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I thought you were going somewhere else with that story.
So did I.
I was like, girl, you starting off quick.
Save it.
Oh, we going there quick.
I'm wondering what.
We'll get there. So growing up, it was you and your brother Trey, and then you've had your mom, your dad, and Joanne had 2 other, right? You're one of 4.
Right. So I had 3 brothers, 2 younger that were my half brothers, but I was raised with them, and then my older brother, and then my stepdad and my biological mom had 2 girls that were kind of funny, same age, similar to Mariah and Ariel and Morgan and Madison. They were the same exact age.
Oh wow! Yeah,
my 2 half sisters and my 2 half brothers, but my brothers. So they were the same exact age, and it was kind of interesting growing up because I always felt like I was going to my aunt and uncle's house, even though I knew she was my biological mother and my stepdad. I knew that, but it was just it was only on the holidays and things like that. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I did go and live with her. I chose to live with her for a short time, and at that point I lived in Haas, New Mexico, and then we moved to Illinois, and then I realized that was not for me. So I moved back, and I ended up my last 2 years graduating, and then graduating from Conroe High School, and so that's kind of. And then I went to Blinn, and then met anyway, got married after that.
People are gonna be wondering why we're laughing. You're gonna have to tell them.
We're not there yet.
We're not
there yet.
It was an arranged marriage. Let me just
arranged.
It was arranged.
I want to point out that
social media.
Oh my gosh.
I want to point out, like, one of the really cool things that starting out about Mom moving to Hobbs and then Illinois and come back is that one of the rules that Joanne established early on was we're not going to be having any of these moving back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, she set up as like a structure, as a boundary, saying you can move one time and move back one time. That's it.
Yeah. If you move, and it was more not just a boundary of that. It was
protection.
It was protection for them and for us, because they didn't want this. Well, I'm going to move to my mother's, and when I get mad at her, I'll move back, and when I get mad at y'all and I'm not obeying the rules there, then I want to move back. And they didn't want that disruption, and that it was more of that. Is why they put the boundaries down, and I obeyed the rules. When I moved back, I stayed, but my brother didn't, and it took a long time for him to talk my parents into letting him move back that final time, and he did, and it worked out.
Yeah, and there was true stability with your dad, and
yes,
and a true home life there.
And I guess the thing is that when we lived in Florida, It actually came to me this morning. I gave my life to Christ at a young age, 8 years old, in Myrtle Grove Baptist Church in Pensacola, Florida. And because we were raised in the church, I really didn't know anything different other than being in the church and And it was, Sundays, training in on Sunday nights, going to church on Wednesday nights, choir practice, anytime the doors were open, we were pretty much there. But I remember I was with a friend and we were sitting with my parents, and my friend got up to walk down the aisle, and I got up to follow her, and my dad grabbed me by the arm and he said, "Darling, do you know what you're doing?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." Even though I was following her, I knew what it was. I knew what it was about. I knew I was giving my life to Christ at that moment. And it dawned on me today. I was listening to a sermon this morning, and it dawned on me today that was my moment when I gave my life to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of my parents and the way we were raised.
Yeah. Well, that's a great, it's going to be part of your lineage going forward that we're going to talk about, I'm sure. But
okay.
Well, it certainly set the path for your life, though.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, I'm not saying that by any means did I follow the right path, but for sure I kept coming back, and I kept coming back.
Yeah. But that's what it's about, is that it's getting you on that, and it's not even a path. I think it sets in that light ahead.
A foundation.
Your road. Your road is
a
like
foundation.
this. You're not over here or over and under and all that, but you have that light that you're still working towards. So no matter how much you mess up, whatever you consider mess up these days, or whatever goes on, you still got that end path, that you're set on at that young age.
Right.
So I guess, like, with your mom, so what are some of the things that you really remember about, or that are so important to you, or things you passed on to your kids that you remember that your mom taught you, like traditions, or was there just anything that specific about Joanne that you think about? Or sometimes, like, even Tiffany, like, if you see your mom do something, you think, "Oh, there's Joanne."
Her sneeze.
Oh, yeah.
Her sneeze is, every time she sneezes, I'm like, well, that was a learned behavior. And not only that, but it's one of those things that, mom has started saying whenever one of us want to snuggle or crawl in. We still, me, 36 years old, want to crawl in my mom's lap.
Yeah.
And when I do, she goes, "Oh, you big ox," which is something my grandma would say.
Yeah.
And because my mom would crawl into my grandma's lap, and she would say the same thing.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. I would, I mean, still, even when she was older and I was a grown woman with all my kids, I would sit in her lap sometimes. And watch she would see that. But, and I guess, Tiffany, you hit on it. It was the love from her. That was the defining thing with her, with the relationship that we had. She became not only my mom, but my confidant, my friend, and she exuded love to me, and she held me in her lap when I mean, the one thing I took Ben to church. He's our grandson. He's 9. We took him to church on Sunday, and he laid in my lap, and I started stroking his hair. And my mom used to do that when I was in church, and laying in her lap when I was a little girl, 8, 9 years old. I would still lay in her lap, and she would stroke my hair, and listening to her sing hymns in the house, and whistle hymns, and
hum hymns.
And she was always humming hymns, and that was just the love that I had with her, and the hugs. That's a key thing. The hugs.
Yeah, I was just singing the hugs.
Yeah.
And you always knew when she had something on her mind because she wasn't humming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What mothering, not that the physical and the love, but what kind of like mothering behavior, like, was it like silly rules that you passed on you that they were silly, or like just as a mother?
Oh,
Like,
And
like
so
we talked about it, like we couldn't go to dances when we were, little because
right?
we could
Okay,
dance, that's what
or
mom
you
did.
couldn't, we
That was his
couldn't, like,
mom
our rule
thing.
was, like, you couldn't wear
But
makeup
she's
or
still,
shave till
yeah,
you were
she's
the
still
week
mad I
before
didn't let her
6th
go
grade.
to
Like, not
That's
Backstreet
so
Boys.
arbitrary. So
before,
arbitrary.
the
Oh
week,
Yeah.
my!
Yeah.
the week
Okay,
before, you couldn't
so
shave.
I
there
have
is
this
there's
story.
a funny story.
Okay, so when I was going to middle school, I think I was in 8th grade, I think, and I wasn't allowed to shave my legs till I got to high school. Well, she finally relented and let me shave up to my knees. Okay, so she let me shave up to my knees, but why? I mean, up to my knees.
Because trendy
And-
girls go all the way up.
I know. Then I was at school and I was embarrassed because I had hair on my legs. And this girl, she was talking to me about it, and she goes, "I think it was your stepmom." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but mom." And she said, "I would ask my dad. I would not ask my stepmom." And so I went home and I asked my dad. I just sat down on the couch next to him and I said, "Hey Dad, can I shave my legs all the way up to the top leg?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, darling, whatever you do." So fast forward that evening when my mom came to tuck me into bed. I told her, Dad said I could shave my legs all the way up to the top of my top. And she looked at me and she goes, "I don't care. Shave all the way up to your ass. I don't care." And then she turned around and walked out. I was like, okay. I think I shall. But she doesn't. My mom didn't cuss. She never cussed. And so shave up all the way up to your ass. I don't care. So anyway,
That's
You knew she was mad.
that was it. Yeah, she was a little mad with me.
Whenever you had the girls were dealing, did you have that same kind of thing, or did you just tell them once you start, you just you can't stop kind of thing because it's going to go crazy? Or
Did I
You
really?
did. I could remember. So I was in intermediate school, so 5th or 6th grade, 11 or 12, and you had already told me, because I was starting to get hair in my armpits, and you told me I could shave my arms, under my arms, but I was not going to shave my legs yet. And so I remember we were in the house in Bitwood one morning, and I was in the shower, and you opened the door and you caught me shaving my legs already, and you just looked at me, you were like, "All right, keep going if you want." Because
So
I think
how
you were
old-
coming in there to tell me that I could, because it was an
Right.
ongoing conversation that we had been
Right.
having. But I think I was in, I think I was in 6th grade, so 12 years old.
Yeah, probably. I had a little flashback, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, just do
You're
it."
like, shave up to
And
your
I was
ass,
already,
Tiffany.
leg up on the side of the shower, and you just walked in, and we locked eyes, and you were like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh shoot. And you're just like, keep going, I guess.
Isn't it funny? But like right now, if I swear, if I had a kid right now, if I had a daughter and she's 12 and said, "Can I shave?" I'd be like, "I don't care." Like I really
don't
just
care.
do not care.
Yeah.
I don't just do it. Like
I
can care less right now.
start, you can't stop. You can't just decide in 4 months you don't want to do them, where you gotta
Yeah.
keep going.
Oh,
Yeah,
you got
you gotta keep
whiskers.
going. That's the
Yeah.
thing,
Then you
shaving.
got whiskers.
Yeah. But like,
Was it
Well,
12? Was 12 years old when
It's
you
funny,
two started? Dorcas and Lydia? Was it
Well,
12 years old when y'all
it's the
started?
week
the
before
week
sixth
before
grade.
6th grade. Wait for 6th
No,
grade.
I remember that.
Week
Yeah,
before
okay.
6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, you remember that dumb rule?
Like I said,
Yeah,
so
that's a dumb one.
arbitrary.
Yeah, I do.
So
I do.
arbitrary. I do.
So,
I'm
So
sure
I
that's
have
what
a
it was.
question. I have a question for y'all. When your mom was yelling at you, and the phone rang, and she picked it up, and you go, "Hi, this is Sylvia."
yeah.
That's what my mom did.
That's what my mom did too.
Yeah, well, you got to be nice, okay?
Utter rage, and then hello.
Hello. Put in her church secretary voice,
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
All mothers do that. I feel like all mothers, if there's some argument or each other, I think they all probably do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do
That's
that
I'm
now.
sure.
When you're mad
Oh,
at
yeah.
yelling
I
at your
do.
husband, and then turn around and go hello.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So I guess, Tammy, we could fast forward a little bit. Fast forward.
Okay.
Because you were, like myself, a very young mom. So you had you 4 daughters, like I said, 4 daughters. In how many years? Like you did them, well, you had
10.
space between the 2 and 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You're like 2 and 2.
so Tiffany and Courtney were 3.5
Uh-huh.
years apart. And then the 2 middles were 4.5 years apart, almost 5. It was almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And then the 2 younger ones, Morgan and Madison, were only 20 months apart.
Yeah.
Morgan was a surprise.
Yeah, Morgan was. Yeah.
And a
he was
good one. We'll get to that one.
The good one.
But so was I.
Yes.
So
Well, we're finna get there. So you met Greg when y'all were he was graduating, right? And you met
Yes.
him, and met him, you knew him, but you met him
Right.
officially.
So the story is that our parents were from the same town and knew each other really well. And so there were really well. And so his sister was getting married. And so we went to the wedding, and I remember seeing a bunch of boys jump in this, and so his mom had pictures of me at that point. Mind you, I was 14 and had braces.
Okay.
So that's the picture she had of me. Fast forward 2 years, I was 16, no braces. That
growth spurt.
it was the end of my junior year, so I was still 16. And all of a sudden, his dad called to ask if I could go with them boating. And we had seen each other. His mom, we had seen her at a baby shower for his sister at that point, and she said, "You've got to meet my son. You need to meet my son. He needs to meet her." That kind of thing to mom. Well, then fast forward to that Memorial Day, phone call came, and then and he said he was asking permission. My mom said, "Yeah, sure, that's fine, whatever." And so then he said, "Now if I could just get the chicken to call." Well, he was trying to get out of something,
being in trouble.
Getting in trouble. He was trying to get out of being in trouble because his mom overheard a conversation about the beach and a keg. Let's just say a keg. So anyway, so he was trying to get out of trouble. So he was trying to do everything that his parents had said, his mom dad said. But anyway, so he called, asked for me. I went with them boating. Then we had a picnic, a barbecue picnic after
But you
that.
need to tell how he picked you up and everything. That's probably one of my favorite stories.
Okay, well, when he came to the door, he had been working on the boat all day, and he had a shaved stubble. He was wearing a ratty t-shirt that had sleeves cut off, holes in it. Was wearing dirty Birdwell bathing suit shorts and old tennis shoes they were Kappas, but they were old, ratty tennis shoes, no socks.
Cool dude.
Yeah, very cool. But his parents let him bring or pick me up in their custom Anaheim van, a shag and wagon. Can you imagine? Seriously. This guy shows up in Ray-Ban sunglasses looking like a hobo, picking me up in a shag and wagon. Anyway.
Meanwhile,
I'm wearing my hair up in a little bow and had a red striped shirt on and little red shorts and my little bobby socks and my little sun bag going with me. So I was all cute and preppy looking, and here's Rebel, of course.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to the Rebel, but anyway. And then we did our day, and then that night he didn't pick up on any cues, nothing. And I'm like, so would you like to go to a movie or something? And he goes, "Oh, sure."
Okay. Okay.
So he goes upstairs, he said, I'm gonna take a shower first. And I'd already rinsed off from swimming and all of that and fixed my hair again. Anyway, so he came down and I said that he looked like Cinderella when he came downstairs because he had on a beautiful brand new polo shirt, polo OP shorts, brand new kick with tennis shoes. Anyway, it was love at first sight.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 16.
Okay, you were 16. And he's how much older than you? Is he already 18?
He was 18 already.
Okay.
Yeah, he was 18 already. And he was, so how was this? Yes, he was 18. And so that following weekend was when he graduated from high school. So, and he was having a graduation party that day. He invited me to come. He did not tell me it was a pool party, and he did not share that he was one of the most popular kids in school. So when I walked in, I was wearing a sundress and sandals and, for a backyard kind of barbecue thing. And there's girls everywhere, girls wearing string bikinis, everybody. So he said, well, come swimming. And I was like, I don't have a bathing suit. And his mom, Lynn, oh, I got a bathing suit. Come on. I got a bathing suit. She gave me a bathing suit with cardboard titties. She was like, oh my God. It was a full-on one piece, high neck, wide straight.
Oh, this will get him. This will lock him down. There we go.
I put a t-shirt on over it. I was too embarrassed to wear it. But yes, that's when I met Dwayne.
Yeah.
Well, I met Dwayne. That was my first meeting with your husband.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But yeah.
In your defense, you knew him longer than I did. So.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of how we met, and yeah.
And then how long after that did y'all get married?
It was, so originally we had set a date in August of 86. Mm-hmm. August 23rd of 86 is when we had set our original wedding date. Because we got I was still a senior in high school, so I had to go to high school the next year. And Christmas, December 5th, he asked me to marry him. Mm-hmm. And I said yes. Yeah. And anyway.
And you were still a senior in high school.
I was still a senior in high school.
Can you even imagine with 4 daughters?
No.
Right now, I think they're all too young to still do anything.
No.
You even imagine.
And we say that all the time. We say, my parents were smoking crack. What were they thinking? Seriously.
To go, sure.
At the point when we got engaged, I was 17.
Yeah.
So 17.
So, originally supposed to get married in August.
In August, so I would have been 18 by that time. Yeah. That's why we were going to get married then. And Tiffany, did you know that? You didn't?
No. Well, because you're telling the story, and I'm like,
what? Right? It's like, what?
That's not what I was told. Yeah. Yeah. So that's when we were going to get married, and Grandma and I had already went and bought a dress and bought a couple of items, but as we talked about it, and the more we talked about it, I wanted to experience, college, and so we postponed it. And your dad, he postponed it under duress. He didn't want to postpone it, but he went to Angelina, played baseball at Angelina. I went to Blinn and was in the drill team, and we pretty much tore up the highway going back and forth. I would stay with him. He would come stay in my door. And we would go home when his parents were home. It was bad. Very, very bad. Don't suggest that for anybody who was
not a recommendation on how to behave.
No,
just what happened.
No, it's not. It's not. So, Tiffany's just like,
I'm going to say, Tiffany,
Is this new to you, baby? Should we have a
I
disclosure
know
front?
some of it. No, it's funny because
Disclosure
it's
clause in
like
this. Yeah.
it's funny because you were talking about the mother the woman you
You
don't.
don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny in the sense that like there's a lot that I do know, but there's a lot of redacted parts that are coming to the surface now.
Yeah.
Well, you deserve in the podcast. And there you go.
There you go.
So yes, there are new things coming to light. So there are lots of questions that now she's in on the truth serum that I want to ask.
No, it's just water.
Okay, so y'all ended up getting married. How much later? Like, how many did you go all 4 years in school? Did you finish?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
So,
No, so by the end of my first semester, we had a Christmas party, and I invited Greg to come to the Christmas party, and he ended up staying the night in my dorm, which was against the rules, by the way, for guys to be in that dorm. It was the drill team dorm, but yeah. So then, probably 4 weeks later, I
it's
was
like Santa came
4 weeks
early.
later. 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, I was visiting my biological mother and my stepdad in St. Louis. Well, they were just outside of St. Louis, and living in Illinois. And I noticed I was having to wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom, and just all these little things, and having to go to the bathroom all the time. And so then, as I was leaving, I was telling my biological mother that I was like, I've been peeing a lot lately. And she laughed. She goes, "Oh, you're not pregnant, are you?" And I was like, "No." And then I was like, "Oh,
No. No.
no,
No.
no."
No.
So the whole flight back, I was like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." Yeah. So then, I told Greg, and we went to the doctor and found out, yeah, sure enough, I was 6 weeks pregnant at the time.
Nice. And what do you remember about telling your mom? Because I'm assuming you told her.
That was another.
So aside from, well, you had to tell, because there's a lot of play here, because his parents, I know his parents. You had to tell your parents, and you had to tell your real mom.
Yeah, this is like the first week of January when you have to go back to college. So he's planning to go back. I'm planning to go back. And we went out that weekend, and after our doctor's visit, because immediately when I got home, I called him and we met up, and I got a doctor's appointment. So quick, I was able to get in, and it was right there in Humble, and we sat there in the parking lot at Deerbrook Mall.
Yeah.
Classy.
Classy.
So classy, right? Having a conversation. He said, I don't care. I'll marry you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I said, all right. But we had to tell our parents.
Well, I feel like as scary as about to tell your parents, like you're what, 19, 18, 19 years old.
No, I had just turned 18 in August.
Were you scared? Like, not just about, I haven't said it that this my mother, but like, were you scared, or what were you feeling like about this?
In that parking lot, this peace or calm came over me, and I felt like God was telling me, this is what I have for your life. And I guess because Greg and I were in a kind of a bad spot where we were fighting constantly back and forth, and we would fight and then come back together, fight and come back together, and I didn't feel like that need to run or that need to get away. I felt like I needed to cling to him. That's I guess in that parking lot, I really did have that feeling that God was telling me, this is what I have for your life. Yeah. And so that's why I told Greg, and this is where God wants us. This is what I need.
Yeah.
And so at that point, telling my mom, that's a whole different story. Well, we had planned on Monday So Greg and I had told each other we were going to tell our parents over the weekend. Well,
Individually.
individually,
Right? Okay.
yes, individually. And I think I can't remember if that was the next day or how it was, but my mom was driving me the next day or 2 days later to go back to Blinn. She was driving me up there and taking me there to make sure I got registered and all that. I don't know if I was going to stay, but we got to about Montgomery. and mind you, that was like a 30-minute drive for her to drive. I mean, 30 to 40 minutes. We get past Montgomery and I was just like, Mom, I just couldn't say it. I was like, I just can't go to school. And she was like, are you pregnant? Like that. Knew exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I'm pregnant. And this whole story, you know, I did get some paperwork from the doctor. And Tiffany, I don't know if you know this. You know the story.
I do. And then
it was about, you know, going to a facility to take care of the pregnancy to have an abortion and I said, I got all this from the doctor, and she rolled the window down and threw it out the window and said, we don't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we went, immediately she stopped and did a U-turn in the road. And then probably 5 minutes later, we're talking and she said, do you want to go see your grandmother? And my grandmother that she was talking about was my biological mother's adopted mom, Nana. I call her Nana, which kind of was weird because without going into a lot of detail, when they were fighting over custody of us between my parents, me and my older brother, my grandmother was also a third party to that custody battle. And so she was also trying to get custody of us. So there was a lot of hurt and bad blood. For her to say, do you want to go to your grandmother's, who lived in Hearn at the time, and tell her, that was a big step for her and very loving. And my mom always was so loving. She would let me go spend a week at my grandmother's by myself in the summer when I was going through middle school and high school. Me and my brother, she was always so forgiving and caring and always giving grace over and over. So when I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And so she U-turned again and we drove to Hearn, had dinner we called her in Navasota, and then she had lunch waiting on us. And that was another cute story. We were just talking and my mom said to me to tell my grandmother, she said, well, do you want to tell her your news? And that was like, I just looked at her and she looked at me. She goes, oh, well, bless your heart. And that is all my grandmother said. And she knew I was pregnant too. So
That's awesome.
Funny.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something memory. Like because I would imagine that you're raised in church and this is the level of this comfort now, like when you make these life choices.
Right.
And, that they're not so you inviolate go down whatever, but to have people in your life, like you said, with grace like that,
Yeah.
it's so humbling. Almost it feels like just that God gives you those things, whatever things you, because there's a lot of shame in in your sin.
Well, I think the mindset is that it's a scarlet letter.
It's
like,
is,
I'm going to be banned. I'm going to be banished. Now I'm banished.
Let me go to church, the Lord.
And that's the same thing I said, Tammy, was when I told Mom, it was like you were scared in the minute you said it, but in the minute after, it was done. And it's like, this is where we're going. This is the direction we're going. And I think that's a gift. I don't know if it's a generational gift, but it just is a gift that you can pass down that maybe it is just grace. Maybe it is just what grace is that it's like in the minute you're like, oh, dear God. And then, all right.
All right.
Next?
What's
next?
Well, it is grace. It is grace. But even from speaking from the mother that heard the news, because we had other plans, as mothers, we have other plans for y'all, And so, and this is what just right out of high school.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
And when I went to my mother and she said, "It's a baby, get over it," because our family's all about babies. So you think it becomes a gift. And so,
pretty quickly.
And for me, being the byproduct of that grace,
yes,
in the gift, I grew up when I was 12 years old, and I remember I'd been sitting in my mom's closet looking at my baby book, and I remember when when y'all were cooking dinner, and I was in your closet looking at my baby book, and I started counting. And I walked out to my little naive brain goes, "Was I born premature?"
Yes. Miracle you survived.
And I remember the look that her and my dad made. And he kind of got this grin on his face. He goes, "You knew it was going to come sooner or later." And so we had this conversation. But from that point on, like, it was a struggle for me, knowing that, that internal battle. And Mom and I have talked about this, about, I was not a burden, the burden and the blessing.
Yeah.
And she said, the sin was not your sin. It was our sin. You were the blessing of God's grace. And the way that the love of a mother and the grace of a mother can do that only... Hold on, I'm so sorry. The grace of a mother. The grace of a mother. The grace of a mother. Yes. But just having that reiteration to me from my mom and, multiple, and grandma, telling me that I was the blessing and the picture of God's grace. Growing up, from that point on, I didn't, even when those internal struggles and those internal battles would start happening, they always seemed to know, and they always would be able to tell me that I was that blessing.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing about God's grace. God can take something that, God can take things that, the background is a sin, whatever, and he can. And I think a lot of people don't understand that they don't have that foundation of what God really is. He can take something and he can make it back on track and create it as well. And he can, so the matter of friends talk about that. We've been in the same situation. That God can take something that was not in his original plan and he can bless it and it can still come out and still end where God wants you to have. But using that growth for yourself and allow God to do that, because it's really easy. I would imagine it's really easy just to kind of get boggled down in that and not accept the grace that God has for you. And doing a lot of stuff. I put my cousin really goes on the time.
It's easy for us as humans and as sinners to tend to place a hierarchy on sin, I think. And God doesn't see, one sin as bigger than the other. So when we remember that, and when we can experience that in that grace, and knowing that, telling your mom that you're pregnant, just remember, it's like, hey, Mom, I lied about this.
Yeah.
Well, because grace covers it all.
Yeah.
And the trick is for us to accept God's grace, but also to afford that grace to other people, no matter what that is, So God's grace covers it all. So you have to pass that on as a mother, and So that's good.
So you Carly, did that? Did your pregnancy? I get to set up your way.
Yeah.
So
that's another story.
So I was going to say, because there's a whole other side of this. So he had to tell his parents. And y'all's parents knew each other, so there was obviously a connection there.
A connection. Well,
I imagine there was a team meeting.
Well, so that night, my mom she told me, she said, "We have to tell your dad tonight. We have to." And she said, and I said, "I don't want to." And she said, do you want me to tell him first and then you talk to him? And I said, yes, ma'am. And so she said, sit in the living room. Well, so I grew up humble. We lived in a single wide trailer.
Mhm.
So when you sat in the living room, you could hear everything was going on in the kitchen. So I'm just sitting there, tears streaming down my face, and I could hear her. And my dad was like, what? And just, then they started talking, and then she said, well, she wants to get married. And so then he called me in there. And so he said, so your mother's told me, and, I want you to know that you don't have to get married. We'll keep you, we'll help you with the baby. You can go to Sam. You don't have to get married. And we'll help you with the baby. And I had a Little Mermaid moment, and I said, but Daddy, I love. So he said, well, all right, then you're getting married in a week. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Anything? He goes, nah. And Mom just reached over and put her hand on his shoulder and said, darling, I can't do it in a week. We're going to have at least another week.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I'll give you 1 week. I said, can we have 3? So, anyway, so we got married. It was, probably 2.5 weeks after I told my parents. Yes, it was very impressive. My mom planned everything.
Let's think about that. You told them at the beginning of January, and y'all were married on January 30th.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so like I said, it wasn't because I found out the first week. So it was like the end of the second week of January when I told them.
Yeah.
So then, and 2 weeks later, it was the 30th. But so then he drug his feet that whole weekend,
Mhm.
and he went through the whole weekend, and then I guess his mom and him were going up to restock his apartment and everything in Angelina, and he told his mom on the way up. And so when they got there, they just loaded everything up, and when they came back, they had to go right past where my mom and dad lived, and so they came in the driveway, and Lynn was bawling her eyes out and hugging me and hugging my mom and talking to my mom. And so that's kind of the parent meeting.
Yeah.
That's what the adults talked.
It's crazy kids.
That's crazy kids. So, but
funny.
my mom, her thought was she didn't want me to regret not having a wedding.
Mhm.
So she did want me to have a big wedding, and we did. I had a bridal shower. We had a wedding at the church at Grangerland Baptist Church. We even went and sat with Brother Fannin.
Mhm.
He knew the whole situation, and he was, still going to marry us in the church. He was, this is the right thing to do, and so it all worked out.
And how long have you been married?
Thanks. My question is simple.
Good
job, Sissy.
37 years.
Woo woo!
30.
I can chime in here.
So I guess, and then knowing that you had within 10 years had 4 girls. So y'all had kids pretty quickly and consecutively. Had 4 kids. So
yes, everybody says I was always pregnant, but I really wasn't.
No.
But between pregnancy and nursing and all of the things, yes, I was.
Yeah.
Always had a baby on the hip.
Yeah. So Tammy, Tiffany, what do you remember about growing up with your mom and your siblings? I know as the oldest, and being an oldest child, I know that's a whole different, ball game than these other kids.
Yes.
I'll always have sympathy for the oldest children. So what was it like growing up? What do you remember about your mom growing up? What, kind of special things do you remember there?
There's in the early years, there's not a whole lot that I remember, but I do remember in stories of early mornings of her telling me the early morning stories when we would get ready.
Yeah.
And she would sit me on the countertop and she would hold me and hug me for, 5-10 minutes before it was time to get ready to go for the day. And those are very cherished memories. And as well as, I don't remember Courtney being born, but I was only, I was only 3.
Yeah.
But with Madison and Morgan, I do remember them being born. And the first time I ever cooked a meal was Morgan was a newborn, and I was 10 years old trying to cook dinner.
She wasn't a newborn at that point. I think, was it? It was when I had my hysterectomy.
Was it when you had your hysterectomy?
Oh, okay.
She was a year old. Okay,
yeah.
so I was 11.
Right.
And I had to cook dinner, and she's like, look, we're having beef stroganoff. Here's the recipe. Here's this. And
I was laying on the couch, and I
you
was
were
coaching her and
coaching me through it. And I remember, I mean, to this day, I dread making beef stroganoff because I feel like it's a meal that takes forever. And then when I cook it, I'm like, oh, that was only like 10 minutes.
Because you thought it took so long.
Forever when I was when I was trying to do it, at 11 years old. But
on a stool.
On a stool or in a chair. I think I was standing in a chair, really.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things I'll say is the responsibilities that, as an oldest child, you have to have. I remember I was in charge of making sure that we got in from the school bus if mom wasn't there. I think I might have changed a diaper or two, but
yeah, you did. Absolutely. You especially Morgan's, for sure.
Yeah.
You and I was going to say the funny thing about getting off the bus and making sure you got in the house okay. Courtney told me the other day, she's our second oldest, and she said the other day her and Madison, our third child, would get off the bus, and if no one was home or Tiffany hadn't made it home yet, they would hide in the woods so the bus wouldn't.
No, that was Courtney and me.
Yeah. Oh, was it Courtney?
That was Courtney and me because we'd had to hide in the woods because if we weren't the one time that you weren't home yet and the bus came, they picked us back up and they had to take us to the bus barn, and then you had to come and pick us up from the bus barn. So if you forgot to, most of the time we would get in if but sometimes mom, we call those her forgotten years, and she would forget to leave the door open or a window unlocked. So we could, pop off the screen and get in the house. So what we would do is we would go off and
hide in the woods.
Pee
completely safe.
Go to the bathroom over a log if we really had to go.
It's in a Dateline episode. Like, what happened to the kids? They were hiding in the woods because mom didn't make them latchkey kids. But they wouldn't have the latchkey.
Yes, where they would wear the key on their neck.
No, and she never put a key under the mat. No.
Well, that's
we just
dangerous.
hide off. We just hide off in the woods.
Oh. I'm thinking you're fine. I think you're fine.
Hey.
We were outside.
We were outside feral kids anyway.
That's true. Y'all were. When we lived in Bentwood, y'all were always outside.
Always outside.
Yeah.
But it's really, but being oldest is really built, especially with Madison and Morgan, has built a very special relationship with them. And as a matter of fact, I mean, even they call me their second mom, and when they need advice or when they have big news or they can't get in touch with mom, I'm the first person they call.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. They tell me that.
Don't you say that you have different parents from what you and Courtney had to what Madison did?
Yes. Very different parents. Very different parents. Very different. And different
roles?
Different, yes, those two different roles, different
demeanor from your dad. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, for sure. That for sure. Yeah, they got mellow dad. We got rager dad.
Strong.
I was gonna say different financial status.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What do you call dad's early years? You call my early years my forgotten years, but what do you call dad's?
The rager years.
His
His
angry
angry years. His angry
Yeah.
years.
his angry years.
Yeah. But I mean, Courtney and I grew up on Walmart and Kmart, and Madison and Morgan grew up on Gap and American Eagle mall clothes, and we're like
That's true. That's true.
just different.
Yeah.
Different.
It's just later in life, man.
I
Hey,
know. It is.
I remember getting my first cell phone. I was a sophomore in high school, and it was Dad's old Motorola flip phone.
Okay, come on now. That was 20 years ago, right?
I know, but true. But Morgan was in middle school, and she got her first phone.
Well, it was different times. It was 10 years later.
But we're not going to dwell on that, Tiffany. We'll work
We're
it
not
out.
gonna
in
dwell
therapy.
on
We'll
that.
work it out.
Yeah.
in
Let it
therapy.
go.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's fine. I don't hold grudges.
Yeah.
I'm not still bitter.
So Tiffany, thinking about like your mom growing up, what are kind of some of the things that now that you are a mom, because
Mhm.
you've got two beautiful babies yourself, and you also have a daughter
I
who,
do.
if you'll have to confirm for me, because I keep telling this to Mariah that I hope she has a daughter that's just like her.
Yes. And it's funny because we've been talking about mothers and daughters, and my
Yeah.
grandma, Joanne, would tell my
Yeah.
mom, I hope you have a daughter, and she's
Yeah.
just like you. And then the thing is when I was born, and even as an adult, my grandma would say, and she did. And then now they say that to me. I
Yeah.
hope you have a daughter who's just like you. And then they go, and she did.
So these feral kids.
These feral,
Yeah.
I mean, she's
Yeah.
a spitfire. She
Yeah.
is she's 8 years old, 8.5 years old, almost 8.5 years old, and she also just accepted Jesus as her
Savior.
as her savior in the last year. And
Sweet.
it's funny, we've been talking about that mother-daughter relationship, and mom was a very important role in me accepting Christ at Sunday night church. I don't know if do you remember that?
I don't think I do.
We were
But I know
sitting,
we were always there.
we were there. Well, we were there on Sunday mornings, but it was like a new sermon series, and then you said you wanted to go to on Sunday nights, so we didn't typically go on Sunday nights because kids were real small. Maddie was like an infant, and or wasn't even born yet. I don't remember. I think you may have been pregnant with her, but we were sitting at Sunday night church, and I was doodling on my little Bible, or doodling on the
Card.
the giving cards, the giving envelopes. And everyone was raising their hands, and I asked her, I was like, Mom, why is everyone raising their hands? And you said, well, the preacher just asked who here knows that Jesus loves them. And so I went to raise my hand. You were like, no, it's too late. And in my little 8-year-old brain, I took that as, you just meant it was too late to raise your hand. But I was like, it's too late to know Jesus loves me. And I started crying, and we talked, and we went down front that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as now as a mom having a daughter and instilling those, you and I were just talking about parenting this weekend, and just what being a Christ follower and a Christ following parent is about, and just
Instilling those values and
instilling those values, and also parenting the you out of them.
Yes.
Because that's hard.
When you say that, what do you mean? Like taking what you pass down to them, like the bad stuff, or difficult behaviors,
Yeah. So the sass, the talking back, which I know that I did to my mom, and the
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie.
the mannerisms, and sometimes you just want to, and it's funny because you're hearing it and you're going, I know that I did this to my mom.
Yeah.
And so I know where she gets it from, or I know, and just the very social butterfly, talks too much in school, and trying to understand that, you know, that's a gift from God. That's that gift of hospitality, but trying to teach her that there's a time and a place to use it. And
Yeah.
My favorite story is about her having to be strip searched before she goes to bed. Because she takes toys.
she does.
and
So
games
yes,
and-
that she has been. She's creative and she's smart and can hide the toys like no one's business. I have caught her hiding things in her backpack on the like I've searched her backpack, but not where the water bottle is because it's down underneath her. She's taken her water bottle out, dropped it in there, and put her water bottle back.
Listen,
morning-
it's not her fault. She's smart.
She's
No,
smart.
that's her daddy.
That's her daddy. For sure.
And then one morning I walked into her bedroom and she's stuffing. She had her pants, her waistband out, and was putting stuffies, like little bitty stuffy
Animals.
Hatchimal things
Yeah.
in her waistband. And I told my mom, I was like, oh my gosh, by the time she's 16, we're gonna have to be doing full-blown cavity searches.
Yeah. Over here running bricks for El Chapo.
I mean, seriously. We say, and then the move the girl. Our favorite joke is, you know, we've got college paid for. Goodness.
Oh, that's funny. So, what are some traditions and things that you inherited from your mom that you want to pass on to your kids? Is there anything special?
Traditions like
Christmas traditions or holiday traditions
yeah.
or family traditions or, you know, anything that you remember growing up that you hope that you can pass on to your kids?
My favorite is just getting in the kitchen together
Mm-hmm.
and cooking together and
On the
enjoy-
holidays.
on the
That's
holidays. That's the best.
Mhm.
Having that time and just enjoying the recipes that were passed down.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma had the best spaghetti and the best chocolate chip cookies, but
And the best women.
Well, listen, I've got a batch of mom's oatmeal cookies sitting on the bar right now that I made yesterday,
And
We
they're
just had-
good.
and they're good.
They're
I
really
just-
good.
I just made mom just had some of my grandma's spaghetti recipe on Saturday. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that was
That's one thing, I guess, from growing up. My mom was always so busy. She really didn't do holidays at her house. She always would do holidays everywhere else except for 4th of July. That's the only
Yeah.
holiday that she would do at her house is 4th of July.
some
Yeah, I miss that too. I do.
Yeah, 'cause y'all still do a big, or you did
We
do a big thing. Yeah.
Well, and I guess you haven't really discussed that we lost grandma 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
July
Is
will
that
be
something
5 years.
Is that something you're willing to talk about?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I can talk about it. I can't tell you that I'll be able to continue through it once we get started. I already
I know-
almost screwed up when I was talking about it a while ago.
Well,
Oh,
I
me
know
too.
I know how incredibly, because I will say I always thought it was years before I even knew that she was not that I found out she was not your biological mom, because I had met her, I'd seen her, I thought y'all looked alike, I thought you acted alike. There's Tammy's mom, she's lovely, and I always adored your mom. She was always so kind and so sweet, and reminded me of my mom and my grandmother and the whole, the lineage and the heritage. And it's just, you just immediately
That's
feel
why I love to
comfortable.
hug your mom.
Oh,
every time
We
she's here.
stop.
I know she does
Yes,
have sweetheart, but that's what it is. She reminds me, it's that same, I don't know, it's a spirit of sweetness or kindness or something that is of that generation that I don't think I have, but but that that you just hope you have one day. But your mom was so lovely, and I remember when that I found out that she was not your biological mom, and I was thinking, that's weird. I thought that was wrong. I would never know. You would never know she was not your mom.
I know.
I mean, it's a cool story in the sense that of an answered prayer that mom. I don't know if you want to share this about what you used to pray when you were a little girl that you told us about. That she used to pray.
I'm sad to know that.
We're gonna go down that road.
Are we? We're gonna go down that road, but it's it's an answered prayer in that way. But my mom is not biologically related to,
Right.
to her mom.
So I wasn't biologically related to my mom.
And you used to pray that you
I
were.
would pray. Yes, I would pray at night. God, I wish I was biologically. I wish she was my real mom, my blood mom. I wish she was my biological mom. I know that can't be, but maybe somehow my kids can be related to her. I don't know. I would just pray. I wish I was biologically related. And she was my stepmom. And it just so happens that my husband, Greg's dad, is first cousins with my stepmom. So they're first cousins. So that means that my kids are actually related to my mom.
So,
For
and
sure.
we giggle because Greg is technically your cousin, but not really. No, but it's such a
It was sure to come
beautiful.
out sooner or later, wasn't it? Yeah, it was coming. It was coming.
Listen, that's your fault for not telling me, or it's Dwayne's fault for not telling me. But I just think it's the most beautiful story, and I think that's what I love the most is that prayer, even though it's we giggle about it or whatever, that is truly an answer that God turned around and goes, oh, I can fix this.
Yeah.
Now listen, you got to go through some cousin jokes, but you're gonna have to live through some cousin jokes. But I'm gonna give you this,
Right.
so that
God says just wait, and he's got a sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Listen,
And
you definitely
the cousin jokes don't stop. When I explain to my husband that the very first time he goes, wait a second, what? So he goes, so you don't have a family tree, you have like a vine.
I'm just a
A shrub.
No, I always think that was so funny when we met because Dwayne, told us, and I think Tammy, you and I were sitting in the back. And the one thing I love about you is
Dwayne
9 times out of 10, no, Dwayne didn't tell me, and I was sitting in the back car seat with Tammy, and she was just talking. And one of the things about Tammy is she just says it 9 times out of 10. She just says what's in her conversation. She goes, "Well, me and Greg are cousins, right?" And I was like, "Nope." And then I think we got inside, and I was like, I told Dwayne, I think we were riding in y'all's car. He dropped us off. We got inside, shut the door, smiled and waved, shut the door, and I was like, you have got to tell me that stuff prior. You can't depend on my face, because my face was like, yeah, I didn't tell me that. Nope, he didn't tell me. But now I know. Yeah. But it really is just such a beautiful answer to when you grow up with that heartache or that desire and that want. And then it's like, it's the, oh, just wait. And your children actually are the bloodline,
to my mom.
related to your mom, which is just
That's awesome.
such a touching. To me, it's such a touching little story. It gives you that,
And
the little
God
chills,
knew
the
what he was
blessings
Yeah.
there. So I do love that story.
Me too. It's my favorite.
That's a great story
Yeah.
too, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's
It is
covered
a
in
great-
grace. Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
I'm big on the cousin part. Well, that's always great piece, beautiful part.
See, that's the part.
Grace. The Grace.
The grace. The cool part of the story.
No,
So you found out several years ago that your mother, did she get sick, or was it just some sort of?
So mom, it was 5 years ago. It was around the May, early June time frame, and she started losing the control of her motor skills in her left hand and her left leg. May, June, about 5 years ago, she started losing the motor skills in her hand, and then we noticed she started not being able to pick up her leg all the way when she was walking on her left side. And we kept telling them they needed to get her checked, and they made an appointment with the neurologist. She didn't have a stroke, so it was a neurologist, but it was all the way in October. And mind you, this is May, June timeframe. And then I guess it was probably the It was she
Middle
had the
of
4th
July.
Yeah, she had the 4th of July party, and
Mhm.
she was struggling a little bit getting everything together,
And you
so
couldn't
I
be
couldn't
there.
be there because Greg had his stomach thing, and we were at the emergency room. It was the whole thing. Something in the kitchen, and she dropped the whole dish on the floor. And my dad finally was just like, "You're going to the emergency room tonight." And that was on the 19th of July. That was on the 19th of July. So we all, he called us. We all went up to the hospital and went there with her, and they said, well, we're going to do some tests, some MRIs, all of that. So Greg and I went home, went to bed. We got up early the next morning, went to the hospital, and we're waiting for the doctor. The doctor came in and said it was a brain tumor the size of a golf ball in the middle of her, like if you put a pen, it would be right at her nose level. Anyway, it was glioma. Glioma. Thank you.
Blastoglioma.
Yes, thank you. Which is something that you can't. It was inoperable. Couldn't do anything about it. They weren't 100% sure. They were like 95% sure, but to be 100% sure, they had to do a biopsy. And my parents, even though we didn't know what the outcome would be, looking back, we should have said no. But it was my parents. They wanted to confirm it. They didn't want to tell anybody the bad news until they absolutely knew for sure what it was. And meanwhile, I have a daughter at home, pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me.
Well, second child, yes.
Yeah, me.
So, and
Well,
you were due to be induced on that Monday.
I was being induced on the 22nd.
On the 22nd
so
of July.
I found out the day before I was giving birth about grandma's. Mm-hmm. And we knew it was it was one of these two things, and we found out literally the day before on a Sunday. And I was able to go up there pregnant, and because mom and dad were taking Eleanor for us, because we had to be at the hospital at 6:45. Right. We had to be at the hospital at like 6:30 in the morning.
So I had Eleanor with me, so Maddie was home to help. The next morning we got up, went to the hospital. There was a little bit of drama there. Tiffany and the baby almost died. There was just a lot of stuff going on, but Harrison was born. Everything was good. And then the next morning, my mom had her biopsy, and they actually literally drill and then put a shunt in there to do the biopsy through her brain, and
from there it just went downhill.
Yeah, from there it just went downhill. And the next, they said it was. They came back and said yes, it is. But we were thinking she was going to recover, but it actually made it worse. And I think that I don't know if she would have lived much longer, but who knows?
Yeah.
But from the day she found out on the 19th, she died.
10 days
she actually
later
had a hemorrhage on
the 31st.
The 31st of July, and then on the 1st, they took her off of life support.
Yeah, so it's really quick for
y'all.
y'all.
It
was really quick. She was my best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that was a huge loss for you guys, just for your whole family. You know? And it was a huge loss for your dad and your brothers and stuff.
But you want to talk about the legacy that she left.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that she touched was, seen.
To put it in perspective, she was 74, 73,
72,
something like that. I can't remember now. She was born in 43. And that was 5 years ago. But she was in her early 70s. And you think, usually when you go to someone's services who's, at that age, there's it's a more intimate setting. It's a more, because most of their friends and family have passed on, and there were 400 people at my mom's services. 400.
Yeah, it was. I remember it being spectacular. Because I knew. First of all, here we go. I knew her mom and dad did competitive shooting. Okay.
Yes.
So they like gun shoot, like shooting competition,
like the Wild West type, like.
But it was like
cowboy action shooting. They dressed up like cowboys,
and not just dressed up like they legit garb from the time era. So not only were there 400 people there, 200 of them were dressed up in cowboy, and you walk in and you're like, okay, I'm not kidding. Like, it was spectacular. Telling Dwayne, I can't believe this.
It was a parade.
Like, and I mean, like full regalia, like petticoat, full hat, like the whole thing. It was spectacular. Like, it was so amazing.
And wasn't it Jack Daniels gave part of the eulogy he spoke?
Yeah.
About her.
No, not the Jack. A Jack Daniels.
Yes, A Jack Daniels. Yes, that was his handle.
I was like, hold on, your mama had her funeral stand during my Jack Daniels? That's amazing.
That was one of my dad's friends. His I guess cowboy action name.
That's amazing.
They also have names.
Oh my goodness!
In case you didn't know.
My fitting. My mom's name was Lady Ghost, and my dad's name is Texas Ghost.
Oh, that's awesome.
And because you think
awesome.
like competitive shooting, I was thinking, pew pew. No, it's not pew
No.
pew. Like it's full, like bam bam bam.
Yeah.
In costume.
And my name,
spectacular.
Glamour Ghost.
Yeah.
What is yours?
Glamour Ghost.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. GLAMR Ghost.
Yeah.
That's funny. Didn't I know that?
So I guess, Tammy, in thinking about your mom and thinking about growing up and for your own kids, like, what do you want your legacy to be for your kids? So when you're gone, like, what do you want your legacy to be?
I've been thinking about that very thing. I was just talking to Ben we went to Galveston. Ben is my grandson. He's 9. I talked about him earlier, but we went to Galveston to visit with me and her husband's family. And I was trying to tell Ben the number one thing you want to do is to shine your light for Jesus and share with others about Jesus.
Yeah.
Shine and share. That's the easiest way. And I heard that on a sermon, and he said that's what we're called to do, is shine and share. And I thought that breaks it down so simple that kids can have that, can understand that. And
yeah, but even adults need that. Like,
even
they need the simplicity of that.
Yes.
You just need the simplicity of that because it's so complicated.
And don't complicate it. Shine and share.
Yeah.
But it's the gospel. That's the thing, that, knowing who Jesus is, that's the gospel. And I guess if I have anything left, that's what I want. I want all of my kids and my grandkids and my family to be in heaven. Yeah. I don't want to get there and go, well, where is so-and-so? Why didn't they make it?
But I also want to add on that I think another part of your legacy, and coming from grandma's legacy, is grace and kindness. And you were talking about it the other day, and being a peacekeeper, because I think that was who grandma was.
Absolutely.
And I see you trying to continue that legacy.
Thank you.
And Tiffany, the same thing for you. Like you're such a young mom, and I think there's such perspective in, the young when you're younger, and then when you're older. You right now you think, lady, I'm just trying to survive and keep these kids alive.
Yes.
We'll worry about peace later.
Ooh, well, hey, we don't pray for patience over here.
Yeah, no.
Because God just gives you opportunity to practice it. I learned that lesson.
So what would you say where you are right now in your journey as a mom? What do you want your legacy to be, with your children?
I want to continue pouring love into them. That's the biggest thing. I want my kids to know that they are loved without a shadow of a doubt, and that they are made with a purpose, and by a creator who made them fearfully and wonderfully made. That's the biggest thing with small children, I think, is pointing them in the right direction and steering them and guiding them into the right direction and cultivating who God made them to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Amen.
So I think that's the biggest thing right now. Hey, we're not perfect. We're not perfect over here. Like I said earlier, this is the only area of my house that is currently clean.
I mean, I know we could get into Courtney, Madison, and Morgan.
Wow.
But we will do that next time when they're here.
It's another episode, huh?
Because it is. It's,
Yeah.
I think,
That's another 3 episodes.
Yes.
The good thing about your girls
True.
is that they're so incredibly different. They're like our girls. They're just so incredibly different, and different personalities and different stories, and they all. I mean, like even our 3. Just think you sit here on not the back end, but the back end of parenting. The first part of you're further along in the adulting than I am, but they all turned out okay. They all turned out pretty darn good.
That's what Greg and I say all the time.
Yeah.
In spite of us, they turned out okay.
Yeah.
They're not in jail.
Yeah.
They're not hooked on drugs.
Yeah.
And they're contributing to society. So.
Yeah.
And we go to church on Sundays.
You do.
There you go.
Yes.
Standing strong, girl.
Very strong.
I was just talking about this earlier to Madison, actually, and about the importance that mom and dad instilled in us in going to church, because it just takes one generation of not going to church,
Right.
Yes.
and not making it a priority to be completely fallen away from Christ.
Yeah. And guess who I learned that from? My mama. Your mama. My mama. Yeah.
Wow.
Sure did.
And Nick, my husband, and I have really started, if we don't make church a priority, our kids won't either.
That's right.
So Tammy, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on. We've really enjoyed just talking to people, and so we know you guys so well. I just want to get so tickled with the cousin love story. I'm sorry. We're gonna get you a t-shirt. I'm gonna find a bit on it.
I love it.
Which is now the name of
first time I was like,
now the name. Just for the record, that's now the name of your episode.
yeah. Yes, we're gonna call the cousin love story, and people are gonna tune in.
But in
It's the
Jesus'
best.
name.
In Jesus' name.
That's right.
No, it's the best one is it even legal?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's one of Greg's aunts. So we'll end the story here.
Yeah.
So Greg and I were starting to date, and
I thought it was when y'all got married.
No, we had started to we were dating, or we were engaged. That's what it was. We were engaged. And we went to some wedding shower for someone. I think it was Angela Weisenbaker. Actually.
But y'all were already married at that point.
I don't think so.
Because I was her flower girl.
Okay, well, anyway, we went to a shower, and my mom was sitting next to Greg's aunt, and she was talking about, us, and that we were either married or engaged, and she said, "Is that legal?"
Listen.
Hello.
It's a great area.
Oh, the best was when Greg and I were getting our marriage license, and we were sitting there, and they ask you, "Are you related?" And we all looked at each other and said, "Nope, we're hard."
I'm gonna draw this out on a family tree so people can see.
No,
Hey,
I'm
Mom,
so
when
glad
Mom
that-
answers questions about mother's maiden name, Weisenbaker.
My mom's maiden name was Weisenbaker.
Which is her married name. So here
That's
we
the
go.
best I've ever heard.
Right. Which is my married name.
I'm so glad
circle.
that you told the story. I swear to Google about it, and I don't know where it came from. Maybe I just made it in my head after Dorcas told me all this stuff. I could have sworn how my family reunion. And that history is there.
No, they made it the family
It kind of was. It was a wedding shower.
It was a wedding.
The wedding shower.
I think the
And a
family
wedding.
reunion makes for their story. So maybe I just know that. We
This story needs no extra help. It does not need help.
Oh, if it's like when I tell the story of my dad, I'm even in for this. So that's amazing. Amazing. That
Wait, our story is we always say we had an arranged marriage. Sort of.
hey, we'll go
Sort
with
of.
it. That's amazing.
Sort of.
Okay, like I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try
That's
to
great.
say, thank y'all for coming on our little episode. We really appreciate it. Really love you guys so much. And
Aw.
to those tuning in, be sure to like, follow, do all that stuff on social media, all of regular listening to your podcasts, and want to give another shout out to the guys in American Swindle for our Week in Pro music here on the podcast. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.